This is BYU Sports Nation, presented by the BYU Store. Simulcast on BYUtv and BYU Radio. Now live from Studio C, here's Spencer Linton and Jason Shepard.
BYU Sports Nation is live, yes, for some new digs. Your day-to-day play-by-play in Studio C for the time being, while Studio B is remodeled. Presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. It is Monday, July 11th, wherever and however you're connected. So wonderful to have you with us. I am Spencer Linton, teamed up with the man who has gone full goose moo mode. His name is Jason Shepard. Nice mustache, bro.
Thank you. Look, I'm keeping a promise. The last time I was on the show was the day before my vacation began. And I said, when I come back, I will have a mustache. I said I'm going to lean into it for the summer. At least half of that is going to be true because, as you can see, I've got the mustache, so I'm keeping up that into the bargain. Whether or not it lasts past today is up to, well, it remains to be seen. So we'll see. I'm on the show most of this week. We'll see if it's there when I'm back tomorrow.
You are a man of your word.
That's what I like to say. That's what I like to think.
There are fewer and fewer of those men in this world.
Look, all I'm going to say is I got a text from somebody. They gave me the thumbs up, okay? And his initials were TS.
Oh, I thought you were going to say TP as in Trent Pratt.
No.
Now that's the ultimate validation because that guy can grow a mustache.
He can grow a good mustache. We're talking about the head coach of the BYU baseball team. I would like to think that TS stands for Tom Selleck, which is the standard of all mustaches. By the way, you mentioned we're in Studio C. Don't you feel like we're in like an auditorium or something? Like it's just
cavernous.
It's cavernous. This thing is huge.
We're just happy to have a home, right?
I'm kind of digging it though. We can go throw a football if we wanted.
We've got the football field here. Maybe we'll do that during our commercial breaks.
Yeah.
Who knows? The possibilities are endless, Jason, as is your mustache and the capability there. Yeah, as Jason pointed out, we are definitely in some new digs, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to bring it in this cavernous Studio C, including, well, now things have quieted on the realignment front, especially after USC and UCLA bolted the Pac-12 for the Big Ten. That will happen in 2024. But because nothing has happened over the past week, is that a good thing or a bad thing for BYU and the athletics department here? Is the Big 12 going to stand pat? We'll take a timeout from football and realignment to discuss some basketball on the USA level with Eric Mika, who will join us in studio. It's been a while.
Been a while since we talked with Eric.
Now he's repping the red, white, and blue. Very cool. Not to mention a loaded rundown full of headlines. Just this morning, things are a-changing, Jason, which, you know what? Let's roll it out. Get to today's BYU Sports Nation headlines.
We will start with football. Pro Football Network ranked Jaron Hall 7th in the top college quarterbacks coming up in 2022. Last season, Hall passed for 2,583 yards and had 20 touchdowns. He also rushed for 307 yards and 3 touchdowns.
As mentioned, things changing this morning. Now former BYU women's basketball great Shaylee Gonzalez announces she will transfer to the University of Texas. Interesting. Will BYU face Shaylee Gonzalez when the Cougars join the Big 12? That's a real possibility.
You would think that they would.
Got 2 years of eligibility left. In case you've forgotten, she was really good at BYU, averaged over 18 points a game, 6 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 2.3 steals. Jason, she was the best in the West Coast Conference for a number of years, and that one hurts BYU women's basketball.
There's no question it hurts. It's certainly sad to see her go, and interesting that another transfer moving on to the Big 12.
We wish her the best, just not against BYU.
That's the way it goes. Ashley Hatch got the start for the U.S. women's national team as the Americans beat Jamaica 5-0 at the CONCACAF Women's Championship. Hatch finished with an assist and 3 shots on goal, 2 of which, by the way, hit the crossbar. The next match is today, 10 p.m. Eastern against Mexico. Now, in the NWSL, former Cougars Michaela Clough and Cam Tucker doing work. Clough and the Orlando Pride won 1-0 against the Houston Dash on Friday. And also on Friday, Cam Tucker and Gotham FC won 2-1 against Racing Louisville FC.
We have several volleyball notes. We'll start with this. BYU women's volleyball adds Penina Snuka as a volunteer assistant. She was an outstanding player at the University of Arizona, 4-year starter and setter, was the Pac-12 Setter of the Year in 2016, and was a third-team All-American that season. Great to have her on the staff. Davide Gardini of BYU men's volleyball, now in his professional career, won bronze at the Mediterranean Games with Team Italy. Very cool for Davide. And Taylor Sander also doing his thing on a pro circuit on the beach tour. Placed second at the AVP Hermosa Beach Open. Lost in 3 sets in the championship with partner Taylor Crabb.
How about some Summer League basketball? Alex Barcelo played only 1 minute for the Toronto Raptors in the team's Vegas Summer League victory over the Philadelphia 76ers. The Raptors' next game is tomorrow at 5 Eastern time against the Chicago Bulls. You can check out Alex and the Raptors on NBA TV.
A big hitter for the Batcats. Yeah, BYU Baseball's Ryan Sapiti hit 2 home runs in a 23-5 win for the Wausau Woodchucks over the Kalamazoo Growlers. Are you familiar with those mascots, Jason?
Of course I am.
Sapiti was named the Northwest League Player of the Night. The Woodchucks and Growlers will wrap up their series tonight.
No, don't do that. Current Cougs David Timmons and Carson Lundell competed in the Trans-Mississippi Golf Tournament in Denver over the weekend, which makes complete sense.
Wait, what?
Timmons finished at 3 under, tied for 27th. Lundell finished at 1 under and tied for 31st. Now, current Cougars Elijah Turner, David Timmons, Keanu Aquina, Max Brenchley, and Zach Jones tee off today in the Utah State Amateur at Soldier Hollow in Midway.
Good luck. All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending.
You're talking about it, and so are we. It's What's Trending on BYU Sports Nation.
What's Trending, sponsored by BYU Food to Go, the MVP of your next event. Jason, we mentioned it at the top of the show. Things are quieting, we think, on the realignment front within college football after USC and UCLA turned the college football world on its head and said they're going to the Big Ten in a couple of years. But now nothing really new has come out since that big news. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for BYU and the Cougars' pending move to the Big 12 Conference?
Yeah, I could probably make a case for either because we don't really know, because things can change literally in a moment's notice, as we certainly found with that news with USC and UCLA. I think for right now, it probably is good news. And I say that because as soon as the news came out, everybody was freaking out and everybody was saying, well, this is now the next step. This is what's going to happen. With things dying down, not that there will ever be stability, but when things have sort of calmed down and everyone's sort of taken a breath, it seems like nobody's making those rash decisions and jumping into something that isn't in the best interest long term. So I think that it's good news for the Big 12. And look, from my point of view, I like the Big 12 the way it is. So I think it's good news that they haven't added anybody
You're
yet.
in favor of not adding anybody else.
Well, look, ultimately, I'm in favor of whatever solidifies the Big 12 and puts it in its best situation. So ultimately, if that's adding some schools, then ultimately that's what I want. But right now, I like where the Big 12 is at. So I'm not in favor right now of adding any schools. I like what it's building. I like the way that it projects.
Okay.
But again, if it ultimately the long-term health of the conference necessitates adding, then you certainly want the conference to survive, and so you go that direction. But right now, I think it's a good thing that they haven't added any teams, that the quiet seems to be some sort of stability maybe setting in, and that rash decisions aren't being made. So right now, I say it's a good thing.
There are a couple of things that I've been thinking deeply about over the weekend. Number one is the Big 12 is 14 teams for at least the next 2 years.
Right.
Again, we get so lost in the idea that, BYU is going to be in a conference with 12 teams. Now, Oklahoma and Texas are not going anywhere for 2 years. So it will be a 14-team conference for the next 2, we think. And that's great news. So I don't think the Big 12 needs to make a move until Oklahoma and Texas depart the conference. Now, typically, when teams announce that they are defecting from one conference to another, especially at the Power 5 level, there is like a 1 to 2 year period of notice that they're supposed to give to the conference they're leaving. Unless, of course, the conference dissolves and the Pac-12, or Pac-10, as it will soon be with USC and UCLA leaving. If that dissolves, then, yeah, why not? Add a couple more teams. I would like the Big 12 to be at least at 14 teams, whether that means adding the Arizona schools, whether that means adding Utah and Colorado, adding Arizona schools and Utah and Colorado, and they get to 16 teams. Great, because I feel like if you are at the 16 level, along with the Big 10 and the SEC,
right,
you're less likely to get poached from because you've then further established
strength in
yourself
numbers.
as as a conference that has strength in numbers. And if you get poached from and you got 16 teams, well, you're still left with 14.
Right.
Or you're even left with 12. Okay, the Big 12 is trying to get to be that third power conference behind the power 2 of the SEC.
Well, don't you think that that's almost, I don't want to say obvious, because obviously you're still dealing with the ACC and obvious, but don't you think that that's where this is trending, that the Big 12 would be the number 3 conference?
Well, you would think, but it depends on what Notre Dame decides to do. Does Notre Dame keep their alliance with the ACC and stay there to bolster the strength of that conference, or does Notre Dame bolt for the Big 10? And we're talking about $50 million per year in difference, that's reported, for Notre Dame if they decide to leave their own independent status and their own contract with NBC Sports, and then the money they're getting from the ACC. They're getting a good chunk of change, but it's apparently going to be $50 million less per year if they don't join the Big 10.
Well, look, the other part about this is, and as it relates to the Pac-12 and any team looking at maybe joining the Big 12 if there are invites there, right now they're in that 30-day window of trying to find out what type of money they can generate with their media rights. So I can't imagine that anything would happen from that till they get those numbers back. To they want to see what that looks like, I would think, before any school makes any sort of jump. But the elephant in the room here is, yes, it's all about money, but the 1A, and maybe the money ultimately is the 1A, but the other part of this is this all boils down to inclusion in the playoff. Everybody wants to know what type of inclusion they will have based on their current situation, based on the number of teams they have, the conference they're in. What is our access to the playoff?
Right, and Trevor Mattis said that it might be only the 2 conferences.
Yes.
They might form their own playoff, do their own national championship.
So that's the other thing that we just don't know. We don't know when it's going to expand. We don't know if it's going to expand to what numbers. So there's so many things that you're waiting on to find out, is it even worth us going from one conference to another? Is it even worth us inviting others in if it's not going to matter at the end of the day anyway?
I hate to even think about that reality of, man, if the SEC and the Big Ten just decide, you know what, we're going to tack on a few more teams. Maybe they go to 20 teams mega conferences, and there are 40 teams in the Power 2, and they get Washington and Oregon and Notre Dame to join those conferences, among a few other teams perhaps. And they split up and they do their own thing. I don't like that. I don't think that
I don't like it either.
I don't think that is good for college football. I think that you throw in the idea of more teams and more conferences. More parity is fun.
The days, though, of what's good for college football are gone.
Right. It doesn't matter, right?
It's what's good for each individual institution.
And their pocketbooks and how they take care of their athletes.
That's what this is. Look, we all look back fondly on what we remember college football growing up, and we talk about the pageantry.
Regional ties, regional rivalries.
You know what I mean? That is just not the case anymore. And we can sit and stew about how we wish it could go back to the way it was. It's not, and we're sort of wasting our breath because it is so far beyond that now. We're never going to see those days again. We're just not.
Now, for what it's worth, I don't think that the Power 2 are going to siphon off and do their own thing. I really don't. As much as it's fun to be in those conferences and have the most money, I still think they want other places to compete. I do. And so I think the SEC and the Big Ten, while they'll be the huge money earners in this forever, it feels like, these schools are going to be making $100 million apiece every year.
That's decent.
Okay. So while they'll have that, and there will be a faction there, and there will be a huge chasm between the money making, I still think they want the competition. And I just want the Big 12 to last. And I think that the way that the Big 12 lasts is when Oklahoma and Texas leave, they add more schools.
See, and that's what I said. The health of BYU's conference is ultimately what's most important. If the Big 12, in order to sustain itself, but also take that next step and solidify itself in the conversation. If that means you have to add, then 100% you add schools that will help you do that. That's what's important.
Yeah, and the Pac-12 might survive this summer.
And I think they want to try and exhaust every effort to keep that intact somehow.
Why wouldn't they? I mean, George Kliavkoff, the commissioner of the Pac-12, he's clearly made it a point to say, look, we're willing to do anything, including discussing an alliance with the ACC for rights agreements. But having 12 teams is better than having 10 teams, just by strength in the additional numbers. Advantage Big 12 in that regard, because if somebody else leaves the Pac-10, then they're in serious, serious trouble of maintaining that conference. I think we're headed to 4 16-team conferences at some point.
Right.
And then will that then become small? I don't know. But I think that a conference is going to dissolve, whether that's the Pac-12 or the ACC. I don't think it'll be the Big 12. I really don't. It seems like it would be the Pac-12. But can you imagine a world in college football and college sports in general without the Pac-10 or the Pac-12? Like, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I can't.
No, I can't, honestly. But we also couldn't have imagined that it would exist without USC in it.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
The days of, wow, I can't imagine this happening, that stuff's happening now.
Wild. Yeah, and so, I mean, I think the Pac-10 is going to survive this offseason. Watch what happens next offseason, okay? Because this is all going to surface again. Like, you think this is done? It's just this summer?
Right.
No, it's going to get weird again next summer, off-season, when more TV, grant of rights, contracts are being discussed. That's why the Pac-12 is so anxious to try and lock something in right now. But if you are a TV provider and you are the ACC, is it a good business proposition for you to say, yeah, let's partner with a conference that we're not really sure is going to be there?
The thing that is
good business.
The thing that is the most interesting to me about all of the conference realignment stuff is that the last 4 big dominoes, meaning Texas, Oklahoma, USC, UCLA, nobody heard about before it happened.
How did it stay quiet?
That is the craziest part of all of this, is that it's not like everybody had a heads up and you were talking about it leading up to it and then it happened.
Yeah.
It was that it came out of the blue. So who's going to be that next domino that we knew nothing about and all of a sudden changes everything? That's what's crazy.
All right, you tell us, if things stay as is in conference realignment, is it a good or a bad thing for BYU and the Big 12? Let's go to Voice of the Nation.
This is the Voice of the Nation on BYU Sports Nation.
Jim Roberts answers on Twitter. He says, it's good. The Big 12 is really stable with their current lineup. No 1 or 2 defections will put the conference on life support at this point. I will point out, though, that things staying as they are is a mighty big if. Certainly. Yeah, we don't know. It all depends on really what happens in the next 3 weeks for the Pac-12 and the ACC. If they can get their TV deal done in this reported alliance with the ACC, at least on the TV level, then they stick around.
So much alliance talk.
I know it didn't work out. It didn't work out well the first time.
It did not. You should probably also come up with a new word, because that just brings up. They should use something else. It just brings up bad memories, right?
It did not work out. There's strength in numbers. I'd love the Big 12 to tack on a few more. And will the Pac-12 add any more? Are they going to branch out and try and bolster their numbers? But with who?
Yeah, well, I know a certain team in Southern California that's wishing and hoping and praying.
Hashtag BYUSN, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
All right, coming up, where would BYU rank in the Big 12 this season?
In which sport? Okay, think about that.
Okay.
And coming up, where BYU, or rather Eric Mika, joins us fresh off qualifying for the World Cup. He's repping the red, white, and blue. It's been a while. It's going to be good to talk to Big Rick, as his teammates used to call him. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by BYU Food to Go, the MVP of your next event.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork sells Ford vehicles including the F-150, the pickup designed for work and play. Tim Daly Ford maintains a large inventory, providing more choices for selecting an F-150 with the power and engineering to carry and tow heavy loads. The F-150's design offers comfort, safety, and a range of options to choose from. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
Professor Rock here.
The Food Nanny.
Chandler Scott here.
Samry.
Hey, everyone.
Hello.
I just want to tell you about this amazing,
Excellent.
Cool account called My Style.
My Style checking. I'm talking travel points.
Gift card. Concert tickets.
All just for using my account.
That's My Style.
So check it out.
Give it a shot.
Open your My Style checking account today.
Uh-oh. Do you not know the groom's name?
I missed it on our first date, and it's way too late to ask.
Whenever you experience something funny, the first thing you want to do is like share it with your loved ones. Seeing that comedy like helped us through things, like we want to use that to help other people in a way.
We had one kid whose make-a-wish was to come to Studio C. It made me be like, these goofy sketches mean a lot to people.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Hey, BYU Sports Nation has its own YouTube channel. Get all the interviews by subscribing to and sharing the BYU Sports Nation YouTube channel today.
We are live in Studio C for the next few weeks. Studio B being remodeled. Yeah, BYUSN is getting a fresh new look here in a little bit. But for the time being, happy to have a new temporary home. This is your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play alongside Jason Shepard. I am Spencer Linton. Joining us now as we call a timeout on college football realignment to discuss some USA basketball, and probably some BYU basketball too, is former BYU great Mika. Eric, welcome to Studio C and BYU Sports Nation.
Thank you. Good to be back. It's a little bit different look, but I understand that that'll change again.
Yeah,
soon
man.
Here, right?
Yeah.
When's that supposed to be done?
Late August,
yes,
we hope.
We're hoping by the football season, like debut it all, new season. That's the
cool.
hope, certainly, yeah.
We hope.
So are you going to be running back there like Kenny and Charles on TNT, drawing
like
up?
the race to the board?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to talk about it.
Okay, my bad.
We'll have to wait and see.
My fault.
Now, granted, it's not as spacious as, what is it, Studio J?
Studio J, yes.
TNT.
Yes, that is correct.
These guys are just physically also large. They need more room.
We all aspire to be like that show, right?
Yeah,
It's the greatest sports show on television.
Good gig.
Eric, you've been a busy man.
Yeah.
In fact, just give us a brief rundown on your life the past couple of years. What have you been up to?
Well, I wasn't busy this last season because I actually got wrist surgery in December. I fell, this guy undercut me, and I fell right on it, and so the main kind of stabilizing ligament snapped. But right at the same time, it was like 2 weeks after our son was born in France. We were playing in France just outside of Lyon. So I was kind of on like a paid paternity leave, which was great. Worked out awesome. Didn't go on any of the trips the rest of the year.
Oh, shoot, I've got this injury. Sorry, guys. And I get to spend time with my wife and my kid.
Really inconvenient timing. No, it was perfect. So we were in France this last year. The year before that, we were in Belgrade, Serbia. We were thinking about sticking around and making another run at the league, but we didn't know if there was going to be any NBA basketball at that point. You know, the last we had heard, it was maybe, you know, we were talking with Sacramento about going to camp and things like that, but they were saying it might be in March, you know, of 2021, and I couldn't wait around an entire year. I would have gone crazy. My body would have fallen apart, I'm sure. So we decided to head out, and that's where we've been the last 2 years, is Belgrade and then Lyon. And we've loved it. We've been on some good teams. Unfortunately, I had the injury, but yeah. And then a couple weeks ago, I was with Team USA for the World Cup qualifying games, which was awesome. I did the same thing in 2020, right after I was called up with the Kings. They sent me back down, so I was in the eligible pool of players to be called, and had a great experience. So they called me again, and it was really awesome.
So we'll get into more of the Team USA stuff in a second, but you mentioned your son.
Yep.
Your son, your wife, they're here off camera.
What's it
like being a dad?
It's awesome. You know, it's a lot of work, but we really love having him. It's funny because he's almost 9 months.
What's his name?
His name is Johannes. He was born in France, international baby, but he's got his American passport now and Social Security, so we're all set. but it's funny because we've had him for 9 months almost this week, and it just feels like we've had him our entire life. You know, you guys know you have kids, and we just don't even remember what life was like without him. You know, it's just busy, 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 and everything's around his schedule, but we really loved it.
You changing a lot of diapers, by the way?
A lot of them. I couldn't at first.
Is he changing? Oh, that's okay.
Oh, shoot.
Okay.
Sorry, I've got this injury. I can't do anything.
One-handed was a little tough, and so she toughed it out for both of us, but I'm back to full daddy duty now. And
that injury's been convenient in a few ways.
A few ways, yes. Yeah.
Honey, I don't know, the wrist today, it's really giving me some issues.
Yeah, it's still a little sore every now and then. At 6 in the morning when he wakes up, needs a bottle.
Yeah.
But she has me in line, so
elite.
I'm doing my job.
Yeah, for sure. Eric Mika is with us on BYU Sports Nation. Again, we're excited to discuss the Team USA stuff, but I think every BYU fan wants to know, well, what's now for you in your professional career? What's next?
Yeah, I want to know that too. I don't know. We just had a 1-year contract with the French team because I think the last 2 years in the back of our mind was always to come back and give it another shot, because that year in Sacramento was so great and I was finally healthy. That was the only season I've been healthy for the whole year of my 5 years pro now.
Really?
Yeah, where I was healthy for the whole season. I've had a surgery or a broken bone every, the other 4. So that's been kind of a bummer. It's been hard, but just being healthy, being back home, and having the opportunity to be called up like I was really, really awesome. And then COVID shut it down, like it shut down everybody else's life. So kind of the last 2 years, we've gone to Europe and been in great spots, had a fun time, but it's been in the back of our mind to come back. And so now we're just weighing our options, waiting to see what the best situation is, because, I mean, the G League is great. Going to camp with teams are great. There are good options, but it's really about finding the perfect fit and timing. Just being in the right place at the right time is how you stick.
Sure.
And so we're trying to navigate that and figure out what that is for us.
Well, and this time of year, this is the time, because the draft is done. You have the summer leagues going on, so you have all the scouts, whether they're international, whatever it is, they're all in Vegas kind of watching everything that's happening. This is kind of the time to pounce, right?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to Vegas tomorrow just for a day. My agent is there, my trainer is there. I have a bunch of buddies playing in summer league. I maybe would have played if it wasn't for Team USA. It just would have been a lot to be doing 2 training camps and packing that all in. So I'm going to go down. We're going to see what happens. We are talking to different teams about, going to camp or eventually being with their G League team, whatever it is. I don't care what team it is, where it is. I just want a good fit where I can play and do my thing, play my game, be me, and I know that I'll go back up. It's just, like I said, right time, right place, and that's what we're trying to find.
Do you feel like you're an NBA player right now?
I do. When I was with Sacramento, the summer I did mini camps, I did training camp for summer league, I did summer league. I was there early for about 3 weeks, playing pickup every day with them before even training camp started. And then, obviously with the G League experience and then getting called up, I felt like I belonged there. I was physically, just as strong, if not stronger than everybody there. And, after my experience in Europe, those 2 years, I felt like I was at the right level and unique enough to make an impact on the game.
How has your game evolved? Like, how have you changed as a player that makes you feel like, yeah, I'm legit, I'm back, I'm better?
I think, just a little bit of my skills have definitely improved, especially passing and shooting. I'm not, consistently shooting 3-pointers, and I don't feel I need to if I'm going to, play minutes in the NBA, for example. Not everybody needs to be able to shoot, as well as Steph Curry, for example, to get, because you have Steph Curry, so you don't need 5 of them on the same team. But I definitely feel my passing, my shooting, and, one of my favorite things to do now is, because everybody in Europe, they play the short roll, there's a lot of hedging and big guys jumping out. So you just slip out of that, and then you're almost like a point forward when you catch it at the top of the key and being able to do that. And that's something I never did at BYU. BYU, I was more just catching it on the post and running in transition. So now I feel like my game has slowed down a little bit and is more, adapted for pros.
Let's talk about the Team USA experience, and I want to start here. It's kind of funny how it all comes back to BYU versus Utah.
Yeah, right.
Jim Boylan, former Ute head coach, is the head coach of this team. Now, obviously, he was no longer the coach when you played at BYU. That was Kraskowiak by then. But any BYU-Utah smack talk back and forth there?
There was, and it was all from him. and he won't deny it either. It was funny because, growing up, the first high school I went to was Waterford up in Sandy. Mm-hmm. Our starting center, who was a senior when I was a freshman, Neil Monson, was committed to the U. And so Jim would come to our practices every once in a while. I mean, maybe 2 or 3 times he came, and I was a freshman. I was horrible at basketball. I could barely walk and chew gum. but he talked to me. He recognized that maybe I was a little bit athletic and I could eventually do some things. And so I met him all the way, back then when I was 15 years old, even 14, leading up to my freshman year. And it was really funny talking about that. He remembered all those times he was in our dinky little gym. And then, every once in a while, when we'd break the huddle, he'd mention how I didn't want to get too close to him because of the BYU-Utah thing, or even despite the BYU history that I have, he would let me, ask a question here or there. So he was really great. I'd never been coached by him. Obviously, I hadn't heard a ton, professionally how he was. I had heard from Neil in college how he was, which, he was great. He had a lot of success at the U. But he was fantastic. I had really an awesome experience with them.
BYU basketball is headed to the Big 12 conference.
Yeah, crazy.
It's wild, right?
No, it's really nuts. I mean,
we're like looking at this conference going, whoa.
Yeah.
Every night is going to be just an absolute battle. What do you think of the Big 12? And does part of you think, man, I wish I could have played in the Big 12? BYU?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think any player that was here before with the Mountain West Coast Conference, or even farther back, I don't know what they were playing.
The WAC.
The WAC, there you go. Would be lying if they say that they didn't want to, have a piece of that. Because every night, I felt like when I was here, we'd sell out a lot of games. And, No Brainer, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, they were always full. That's going to be every game. That's how high level these teams are. Even the bottom, the bottom feeders of the league are good. They're really, really good teams.
The perceived bottom feeder of the league was still number 75 in RPI last year.
Yeah, exactly.
The worst team.
Would win a lot of conferences. Like if they were put somewhere else, they would win that conference. So, just having the Marriott, not only the Marriott will be full every home game, but then you go on the road to some of these historic, gyms, and they'll be full as well. And though, I've heard Kansas, for example, is rated every single year as the best college basketball environment in the country, and that's just one of them, and you have national champion winners, recent national champion winners. So there's a lot of talent in that league, and it's going to be really fun to see BYU, have some growing pains, but I'm sure they're gonna catch up and find their niche right away.
How close of attention do you pay to BYU basketball right now? With obviously playing your own basketball and your own career, but how much do you pay attention to what's going on?
I pay attention a fair amount. I keep in touch with Pope. I'll get a random FaceTime from him here and there. Yeah, exactly. What's up, man? It'll be at 3 in the morning my time. It doesn't matter. I have to pick up or he'll keep calling. But yeah, I haven't sat down and talked with Coach Pope since I've been back. I've seen him at the camp and playing pickup and in the annex and things like that. But just being back and working out with the guys, I feel like I'm in the loop of what's going on, how they're feeling, who's going to be playing next year and things like that. And the team has a lot of really good guys, a lot of really hard workers, so it'll be fun to watch them again this year. I love, still being connected enough. Like, it'd be hard for me to watch and follow if I didn't know them, but I know them from summer workouts and things like that, and so it's fun for me.
I like the idea of Eric Mika teaching Foos and Atiki a few things.
I don't think I need to teach Foos anything. He is an absolute animal.
He's a beast.
I mean, he's like got my weight, but my wife's height, but can jump higher than any human I've ever seen. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Like, he literally doesn't make any sense as a human being, but he's a lot of fun to watch, and I've played against him just a couple times this summer. And Atiki as well, he's so big and so raw, but already just watching videos of him last summer and last year, and then playing him this summer, I've seen that he's made some really big steps, which is awesome.
BYU basketball analyst Eric Mika.
There you go.
Do we need to give him his gift?
We
before?
do. Okay, so we're going to go to the Wayback Machine, because when you left for your mission, you joined us in studio and showed off some of your lacrosse skills.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so in fact, it was with this very stick here, which
was on the set.
This is part of the Studio B.
I miss all the
right? the knickknacks.
So this is the lacrosse stick that you were showing us your skill set with. We would like to gift this to you.
This is really mine.
Yes, that is
amazing.
That is yours.
I feel like we're knighting him.
Wow. I know. I feel like I should go kneel, and we should go get Matt Schneck. And he can... Do I have to cover up the Reebok?
No.
Look,
it's all good.
This is great.
There you go. That is yours.
And this?
Yes.
And the squash ball?
And the squash ball.
That's amazing.
It's all you, bro.
Hey, I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
My brother's going to be jealous.
Yeah, he's a great lacrosse player. Yeah.
I'm better.
But you're better.
That's why I'm getting this.
Display that with pride.
I will.
Yes,
I'm gonna hang this up in the man cave.
Yeah, baby.
I mean, why not?
Great stuff.
I appreciate it.
Eric, we'll be watching your career closely. Thanks, man.
Thank you. No, thanks for having me. It was great seeing you guys again.
Got it.
Absolutely. Coming up, we dive into Cam Miller's quarterback rankings. That probably means BYU has one ranked high.
Plus, where we think BYU would fit in the preseason Big 12 poll. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This is where we dominate. Our playground, place of business. This is our promised land, where we seek to find ourselves. And we're here to make sure the spaces our best prove themselves on appear how they should. Intermountain Healthcare, official medical provider for BYU Athletics.
Accidents don't just happen 9 to 5. They happen when you least expect them. The team at Siegfried & Jensen is here for you 24/7. Nights, weekends, every day, every hour. Really here for you. No matter when you call us, you'll speak to a real person and have access to the same expertise and personal attention as always, and get the legal help you need when you need it. Nights, weekends, every day, every hour, 24/7.
Learn more at siegfriedandjensen.com.
Familiar with the BYUtv app?
Yes.
I beg your pardon?
Sure, it's got great original TV shows. But it also gives you access to family films for free.
Wow. Awesome!
So gather around, grab some popcorn, and let us do the rest.
It'll be fun.
Watch some of your favorite films anytime, anywhere. With the free BYUtv app.
I like it.
BYU Sports Nation is brought to you by Maersk, enabling global trade for a growing world.
This is BYU Sports Nation. If you want to interact with the show and get great content throughout the day, follow us on our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
He is Jason Goose Shepherd. I am Spencer. Call name to be determined.
Maverick.
Linton. I'm Maverick.
Mav. I'm Goose.
Okay.
Guess that means I die. Sorry, spoiler alert. You didn't see it in '86.
You haven't seen the original Top Gun, and that spoiled something. What's wrong with you? They need to see it.
You never know. I guarantee you there's somebody watching this show right now that was planning on watching Top Gun, the original, tonight, and I just ruined it for them.
Thanks, Jason. Oh, it's all good.
Sorry, Darth Vader's also Luke's dad. So
hey, for what it's worth, Cougar is a name in the original Top Gun as well.
Yes, it is.
Very early.
Unfortunately, he had to leave because you got a little PTSD.
Cougar's out. You two are
I gotta send you guys to Top Gun.
Yes, the Cougar Whip Around.
Oh, boy.
Speaking of Cougar, presented by Maersk, your integrated container logistics company enabling global trade for a growing world. Yeah, let's whip it. All right, Jason, start us off, my friend.
The Big 12 released their 2022 preseason poll. Baylor getting the most first-place votes, followed by Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Where would you put BYU in this poll if the Cougars were in it this year?
Listen, I think BYU is really, really solid this season, and I expect them to win at least 9 games, and I think that they have a great shot at beating Baylor and Provo. So if Baylor's the best team in the Big 12, why would we not think BYU would probably finish somewhere in the top 3? At worst, I would put BYU in the number 4 spot. So I'd say somewhere between like 2 and 4.
See, that's where I'm like, worst case scenario for me going into this year, I have them at 4. I think it's 3 or 4. That's kind of where I have them going in, and I'll take that. Because I'm with you. Look, I have them winning a close game at home over Baylor.
Give me a reason to believe that BYU would not beat Oklahoma or Texas head-to-head. They're 6-1 all-time against the Longhorns and Sooners, and BYU is going to be a top 25 team when the season begins. So tell me why I shouldn't think that. Let's move it on. Baylor has 5 all Big 12 preseason players and is, again, Jason, projected to finish first in the league. Does it change the way you feel and look at BYU football's home opener against the Bears?
No, because we knew all this. We knew they were going to be good. I don't know if we knew they were going to have 5 all Big 12, but I think it goes with the territory. We knew they were going to be picked first, so it doesn't change anything for me. We know they're going to be very, very good.
Yes, Baylor's great. They're not going to be as good as they were last year, Sugar Bowl champions, Big 12 champions, but they'll be great. Still, they got to come to Provo. BYU on their what they hope is a vengeance tour. It's going to be a really good football game. It does not change the way I look at the home opener. It's a toss-up game to me. It's a toss-up.
All right, over the weekend, there were some tweets going out about the ultimate BYU fan experience that fans can get involved with. What is your ultimate BYU fan experience?
Oh, man. My ultimate BYU fan experience would probably be playing golf with the quarterback grades at like Pebble Beach, right?
Oh, you're just adding layers onto it at Pebble Beach.
Or maybe in Lake Tahoe in the Pro-Am, right? Like if I was invited to join Ty Detmer, Steve Young, and Jim McMahon in that foursome, I think that would be an all-time
you take it if it was mini golf at Mulligan's, okay? Let's be honest.
Mulligan, Zach Blair's family owns that. Shout out to Zach Blair. It's true. It's true. But playing golf with those guys, I think, would just be an all-time experience.
My ultimate BYU fan experience would be to hang out with Ty Detmer and Jimmer. Just go to lunch, just hang out. I just want to hang out an average day with those guys.
Okay.
That would be my ultimate fan experience.
It's hard. Hey, hard to beat it.
Or right now it may be to be with former Cougar Danny Ainge as he's making jazz trades.
There's that too.
That's also something else.
Courtside with Danny Ainge as he breaks down his new team and his new coach.
Yeah,
That'd be quite the fan experience as well. He's also a good golfer.
Absolutely. All right, coming up, a rise and shout out to a guy who really hates Utah.
I hate Utah.
And where Jaron Hall ranks compared to BYU's opponents' quarterbacks on Cam Miller's rankings. And we're looking at you, Jaron Hall. Where do you fit into his quarterback rankings this year? It's BYU Sports Nation. Hi, Spencer Linton here, letting you know when your company joins the BYU team as a corporate partner, your brand can be featured in sports programming on BYUtv and BYU Radio. In addition to all of the great games, you can be part of the BYU coaches shows, place your message in Countdown to Kickoff, basketball pre- and post-game shows, and each weekday on BYU Sports Nation. We invite your team to join ours and become a corporate sponsor of BYU Athletics. For details, email sponsorship@byu.edu today.
I know what it's like to be overlooked, to be doubted, to fly under the radar. I only had one offer coming out of high school, but I was ready for every moment, every opportunity, and every shot that I got. Now I'm playing professional basketball, aiming to be one of the best shooters on the planet. And I'm just getting started. Be ready for your moment with Rapid Reboot, the future of rapid recovery.
Trio Orem Senior Living believes in empowering seniors to live life to the fullest. We help eliminate stress out of daily life when you live at Trio. Less time focusing on housework means you can socialize at one of our many events, with safety in mind, of course. And did we mention our spacious apartments with modern amenities? Learn more about setting up a private tour at trioorem.com.
As we've spent time working with so many groups around the world, we've learned a lot.
I have really learned the importance of gratitude.
African electrical systems.
Well, I've learned that Kieran actually loves concrete.
The power of cooperation.
But above all,
we've learned the world is a family.
And fixing someone else's problems
ends up fixing my own.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Join us on Friday as we look back at some of the best Deep Blue stories of the year. It's the Best of Deep Blue, Volume 5. That's coming up Friday at noon Eastern on BYUtv and BYU Radio.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation live from Studio C. We just talked to Eric Mika. If you missed that conversation, just download the podcast. It was awesome. It was worth it. We even bestowed a gift that he will hold in very high regard for the rest of his life. He said he needed to be knighted with it.
I felt like, seriously, I felt like as I was giving it to do we need to call him
Eric Mika.
Lord Mika now? I mean, I don't know.
Of Castle Pleasant Grove or whatever. I have no idea.
Yeah, but he genuinely was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
He loved it. That's cool.
Great to catch up with him. On to less important things, Jason. Like the current quarterback rankings for the college teams that BYU will face this season. This is according to our guy Cam Mellor from Pro Football Network. We all know he loves Jaron Hall. We know he was the guy that was the original to back Zach Wilson back in 2018 and 19, saying, look, he's going to be an NFL quarterback. You watch. And we were all kind of like, all right, cool, yeah, whatever. He called his shot, right? He's calling his shot with Jaron Hall as well. And he says that Jaron Hall is his number 7 overall college quarterback going into the pro seasons, we think, next year. He's got projected right now with Jaron at number 7 to be the 31st pick overall going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay? So he's got him in the late first round.
Following a certain GOAT, possibly?
Yeah. A lot of people want, we just talked about Russell Wilson, right? A lot of people want Jaron Hall to step into Russell Wilson's shoes in Denver or formerly in Seattle. We'll see, right? But the point is, Jaron Hall is a really, really solid quarterback, late first-round projection. Is he the best quarterback on the list of BYU and all the teams the Cougars will face this season? And the answer to that is yes. So he sits atop that list. But, Jason, Hank Bachmeier, remember that guy?
Yeah.
The only reason that Boise State beat BYU, right? Had nothing to do with fumbles or anything like that?
No.
Just Bachmeier?
Look, I'm shocked when any team wins a game and Hank Bachmeier wasn't their quarterback. I didn't think that was possible.
Okay. Well,
look, this speaks. Look, you mentioned he's been very high on Jaron Hall from the get-go. But when you look at not just the quarterbacks, but the teams that are on this list that BYU will face, we know how important this year is for a lot of reasons. But when you look at the schedule and the teams that BYU's facing, the fact that Jaron is the highest ranking quarterback, according to Cam Mellor, that is very, very impressive. And quite frankly, it's warranted. Jaron Hall is going to have a massive year this upcoming season. So I love the fact that the next nearest quarterback is, 11 spots away, and Bachmeier is at 18, or excuse me, is 10 away.
It's KJ
Jefferson and then Bachmeier. And KJ Jefferson is at Arkansas. And then you have Mckee at Stanford. You have Bonner at Utah State, who they have, according to Cam, is one spot ahead of Mckee. So I mean, look at the list. And it speaks highly of Jaron Hall that he's at the top of this.
Now, some things that really jumped out from this list to me were, one, Bo Nix, Auburn guy, right? Yep. We all know Bo Nix, the guy that was gifted a football by Cam Newton when Auburn went on their memorable national championship run. And then he became the quarterback later. It's this great story. Well, he's transferred from Auburn. Now he's at Oregon. He's number 85. Okay, I think it was Cam Mellor that called him, you mean no Nix? No Nix. Yeah. Which is a slide on Bo Nix.
Sure.
But he's got him at 85. And then Notre Dame's quarterback, Tyler Buckner, number 89. Number 89? Notre Dame's going to be is Notre Dame that good around him that doesn't matter who plays quarterback for the Fighting Irish?
It very well could be.
I mean, we know they're loaded with five-star forward, five-star talent.
We know where they're going to end up, being ranked to begin the season.
Bo Nix, Tyler Buckner, 85 and 89 respectively. Blake Shapen, who takes over at Baylor, number 83. So all of these guys on the toughest teams that we think BYU are going to face all year, right? 83, 85, 89, their quarterbacks go in Cam Miller's power rankings list for quarterbacks.
Talking 70-plus spots below Jaron Hall in terms of just quarterback rankings.
Jerry Bohannon was the quarterback for Baylor last year when BYU lost to the Bears in Waco. He's now at USF. BYU opens against USF, and he's number 75. Okay, so like KJ Jefferson in Arkansas, in terms of just quarterback conversation, and Hank Bachmeier at Boise State, are those the two teams that BYU needs to be worried about the most just because they have solid quarterbacks?
Well, look, anytime you're going to Boise to play, you need to be concerned. We know Hank Bachmeier is a good quarterback. He's a really good quarterback. And regardless of the year, Boise State, they get athletes to play in Boise.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, look, it is interesting that when you look at certain teams, just from a quarterback standpoint, it doesn't necessarily reflect, at least according to these rankings, how high you would expect them to be.
Does Hank Bachmeier not look like a young Robert and I?
I can see that. No, you're right. That's a great call. That's a good call.
The conversation for another time.
But does he go fast and go hard? Is that his mantra?
Maybe so.
Okay.
Logan Bonner, Utah State, number 31.
Yep.
And then Tanner Mckee, the heralded five-star Tanner Mckee, number 32 in the list of quarterbacks. Again, these are from Cam Miller, Pro Football Network. 32 for Tanner Mckee at Stanford. Okay. It's interesting because typically you get caught, and I know I do, I get caught in the idea that, well, you're a college football team, you kind of go as your quarterback goes. That's not always the case. It's not. If you can hand off to some amazing stars and you have a great offensive coordinator that can think of diverse ways to get the ball into your playmakers' hands outside of the quarterback, and you're just a game manager. Like, I feel like you can get away with being a game manager in college football a lot as a quarterback and still have an amazing team.
Well, and the thing, like, I don't want to bury the lead. The reason to have this discussion is because Jaron Hall, with all of the names on here and all of the accomplishments,
he's the dude.
He's the guy.
He's the dude.
He's the best quarterback on here. That's what's impressive, and I hope fans realize how good he is. And certainly when you look back at the numbers he put up, the wins that he put up, and then after the season finding out just how injured he actually was for the year, to be able to do it makes it even more impressive. I am so excited to see what he can do and how he leads this offense this year.
Hey, assuming health, things look good for BYU football.
No question.
Holy cow. All right, let's keep it rolling.
Coming up, our elite voice of the day.
And today's Rise and shout out to an all-time BYU quarterback and his work for those struggling with mental health and other issues. This is a great story. It's BYU Sports Nation.
Introducing the Truck for Adventure. The all-new 2022 Nissan Frontier doesn't compromise on power or comfort. This midsize truck was redesigned to incorporate the latest technology and designs for safety, comfort, and convenience. Plus, with up to 6,700 pounds of towing capacity and best-in-class horsepower, it's rugged enough for adventure and still safe enough to transport all your favorite people. Where's your new Frontier? You'll find it at Tim Dowling Nissan Southtown in South Jordan.
Mark?
Some of my favorite moments are hearing from the family room, just a chorus of laughter.
'Twas your mother's.
BYUtv has been an escape and a refuge for me.
We forgot about random acts.
We love that one.
Today we wanted to do something nice for you.
I see that change in him after that show.
It just brightened everybody's day.
I can do this. I want to live my life in a way that show showed me. This is your guys' song.
You deserve.
Our goal, 50,000 books in the hands of children.
Okay, and I can help. Why do you do this? What do you get out of this?
It needs hope, and you need to show that little bit of love.
When you lay down your head. People come here one way, and they change while they're here. It was so great to be a part of it.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
BYU Sports Nation is on demand. Download the BYU TV and BYU radio apps today, or you can download the podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and please subscribe, rate, and review.
Our question of the day: if things stay as is in conference realignment, major college football, is it a good thing or a bad thing for BYU and the Big 12? Blaine Swallow on Instagram says, quote, I think it's a bad thing for the future if the Big 12 doesn't add more teams. It'll be all right for the next 3 years, but then the Big 12 will be left in the dust. BYU is going to be part of the club now. They shouldn't lose their Power Conference membership before they are even in it. Well, BYU will be in the Power 5 as of next season. Again, all these major changes are going to be happening in 2024 and 2025.
Yes.
That's when USC and UCLA leave. That's when Texas and Oklahoma leave for the SEC. Like, that's when it's going to get really crazy. So,
and there will be so many more changes and defections and everything else before then.
The time, I think it's going to get crazy again next summer. Even if it's quiet for the remainder of this summer, and the Pac-10 remains, and like they'll have their 10 teams, like nothing is guaranteed. Have we not learned anything? Like, nothing is guaranteed.
Look, and like I said, it can jump on you quick without any warning.
All right, our elite voice of the day presented by Sundance Mountain Resort. Steve Webb on Facebook says, the Big 12 needs to take some teams now from the Pac-12. Don't wait. Don't take any chances. Sweep the leg.
Is this John Kreese on Facebook?
Yeah, things didn't work out well for John Kreese in that movie.
No, they did not. Look, it's
to be determined in
season 5.
Season 5
of Cobra Kai. Look, the word should be just proactive. I think that's what everybody's looking to be, is proactive instead of reactive, and that's every conference, it's every institution moving forward. Be proactive.
Brett Yormark, the new commissioner, is getting high marks.
Yes, he is.
Been extremely proactive. All right, today's Rise and Shout Out presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics. Let's give it to Max Hall. He's doing an incredible work. He's opening up a center to help those that are struggling with drug issues, mental health issues.
He's amazing.
Like, what a turnaround. I had lunch with him a couple of weeks ago, and he told me all about this, and it's incredible. Like, I can't get enough of it. I think it's an amazing story arc that he has been on.
Yeah, he's fantastic, and his story helps so many people, and I love the fact that he enjoys sharing that and helping other people.
Yeah, his story is going to help so many thousands more, right?
Without question.
With this.
Yep, no question about it.
Our thanks to today's guest, Eric Mika, who was fantastic.
Conversation continues 24/7 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always use hashtag BYUSN.
For Jason Shepard and his mustache, you can kiss that goodbye. I'm Spencer Linton. Shout out to James Anderson. We'll see you tomorrow on BYU Sports Nation back here in studio. See you. Go Cougs.